Just gotta get in there. We're making progress. That's what really matters. Oh my god, I bent the spoon. You can put the dry ones in a mill, which we have here. This is a juicer. This is a mill, it like grinds it all. Or you can just buy flour, that's cool too. I would suggest organic because there's little living organisms in sourdough and you don't want the pesticides to kill your little organisms because they're gonna help you. Okay. Decided that it could be yummy to have if they make it through the baking process, because in the baking process they might soften like into the bread, but there's kind of little chunks, and you know, sometimes it's fun to have some texture. So that's where I'm gonna stop blending that one. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a P on the Myers-Briggs, so it's a little messy. Okay. This is another fine, lovely flour that was brought by my director-ish here, who you cannot see. But so we're gonna do this flour and the other flour in the sourdough starter, which I'll also teach you how to keep the sourdough starter, I believe, today. So I need a bowl. Getting it out. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not afraid to get dirty. So I'm just going to use my hands to kind of pack this in. So we want 5 cups of flour. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect, so that's about 1. So this one's a rye flour, I just learned. But we're actually going to mix it with a gluten-free flour as well. So that's 2. I think this will probably be 3. So that's about 3. And so that means we'll want 2 of this one. This one's the gluten-free one, the teff. And these have both been sprouted. So when you sprout it, you actually release more nutrients. I wonder if I should blend it. It's not blended, and I thought, let's go with the texture thing, which now I'm wondering if I should blend it because it's very seedy. I don't remember what I was saying right before that. But now we have our 2 cups of teff, and I think I'm just not going to blend it, and we're going to see what happens. Set that there. I will grab this. And this is the sourdough starter. You can see all the little bubbles in it. That means it's working. And we need about 1 cup of the sourdough starter. So here's our cup. Of course, you can do this all much more cleanly if that's your thing. These are sprouted and they're still wet. So they have already moisture. In this recipe, you normally want to put, about 2 cups of water. It could be a 1/4 cup more or less, and you'll kind of know as you go. If it's too clumpy and falling apart, then you want to add a little bit more water. So I'm just gonna start off with 1, and then we're gonna mix it up. And we're gonna see what we get. All mixed. So, as you can see, this is really, really what's called hydrated. Lots of water. So I'm not gonna add any more water. This one we actually are gonna let sit now for, it's kind of hot, so it could be just, 12 hours. 12 to 24 is the usual recommendation. The longer you let it sit, the more sour it will get. We're gonna set this one aside. And here I have one that's actually ready to go into the oven. So this one is flaxseed and Rouge de Bordeaux. So what you do is just a little bit, like 2 hours before, or it could be less. I think I got rid of my teaspoon. I used it earlier. So I already put the salt in here, but you would usually put 2 teaspoons of salt at this point. Put it on, and then you kind of mix it up. You just fold it. So you fold it like that, and I'll show you kind of when I put it into the pot. So this one's been sitting for a little bit with some salt. And when you do that, it's nice to have like some water to dip your fingers in because it will get very sticky. And this is the part where it gets really fun, especially if you are doing it with just only your hands, which is what I will be doing right now because there's only 2 people in the kitchen and one of them is filming. You don't have to do it in this. In fact, I got this out to kind of show you. You could just do it in a regular pan like this one. You just need to oil it up. Coconut oil, butter, whatever you want. But I'm doing it in here because the seal on this is not so great, and this helps it bake better. So, this is cast iron. Sizzling sound. Okay. So I'm gonna see. This one's a little bit less hydrated, but still maybe a little bit tough to really like pick up. And then we just kind of, the more hydrated it is, kind of like the less pretty it goes into the pan. More often the bread comes out much yummier when it's more hydrated, nicer to cut. With lots of skill and practice, I will one day get this down to really how to use it while it's hydrated. But anyway, I had to quickly rinse my hands because you kind of want to get it. It's going to have a little bit of flavor. We cooked some zucchini in there with some balsamic vinegar. So I'm excited to see what taste comes out. Just put it back in there. And either way, whether you use this or you use that, what you're looking for is to bake the bread till it either comes out clean, or you can do the temperature to 160. Or you can just poke it in there and see if it comes out clean is a good way to guess too. Or not guess, but to tell. And then if you choose to do it in the Dutch oven, the thing with the lid, you start it at about 40 minutes. You check it, and then you can take the lid off and keep baking it. Put the lid back on. I've done it all kinds of ways, but typically you take the lid off and then you put it back in for another 10 minutes. If you choose to do it in this one, you know, 40 minutes, check it. If it's at an internal temperature of 160, you can just take it out. I think that's pretty much it for making the bread. This is a loaf. This is half of a loaf. This one kind of got flattened when I put it into the pan to bake it. As you saw, it can but you can see a little bit of the bubbles from the sourdough. And I think this was a barley and something else loaf. Now we're drying it out to make breadcrumbs. Yummy sourdough breadcrumbs. And other than that, I think just showing you how to keep the starter. So this one already has quite a lot in there, but I'm just gonna feed it anyway. So after you use it, I have some flour that I had in the freezer. And you want to do 1-to-1 flour water. After you mill the flour, or blend it or whatever, it starts to to oxidize the fats, so it starts to kind of go rancid and lose the nutrients. So when you put it in the freezer, it helps to preserve it for longer. So that's why I had it in the freezer. And I can also tell you a little bit about why sourdough, because I think I have not even really said a lot about that. But sourdough is good in all kinds of ways. Basically, seeds will take nutrients out of your body unless it's sprouted or sourdough'd. Roasting helps, soaking helps, but I just learned that if a product says sprouted, it really was just soaked, and you don't see sprouts the same way that, you know, we saw over here. I'm trying to get some of these up. So this is like what actually is called malted, right? This little sprout coming out. If you buy it like sprouted hummus, it's actually just soaked. So it needs to say malted if you want these little sprouts. Anyway, so that makes the nutrients more available to your body, and it stops them from stripping nutrients out of your body with a molecule called phytase. So, yes. Does that make sense? Cool. I had to check with the audience that made sense the way I said it. Because sometimes I forget that people don't share a brain with me, and I just say things and I expect people to know. Okay, so I just put, you know, about this much flour and like this much water, so 1-to-1 ratio. And then you just mix it. So let me grab a spoon. You just mix it all up. Oh, yeah, and then when you sourdough it, rather than sprouting or just sprouting, it's really nice when you can do both, but we don't all have that ability for one reason or another all the time. But just if you do just the sourdough, what the sourdough does is there's little organisms, lots of little organisms in there, and they go and they eat it for you and they release all the phytase, they get rid of the phytase, and they leave you with a really nutrient-rich little liquidy flour. And yeah, so it just makes all of it available to your body, and your body doesn't have to work so hard to get the nutrients. And then once you mix it all up, I just try to clean it a little bit where the sourdough isn't, and that's one of the ways that you can help your sourdough to last longer. It's been about 40 minutes. Ooh, it's hot. Okay, so now we're gonna check. Okay, so just by looking at it, I think it's probably not done yet. But I could be wrong, because it actually, well, you can see there's a tiny bit left on there. Let's just see what the internal temperature is. Right. Yeah, it's not quite there yet. It's about, I think about 140. So you want it about 20 degrees higher. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I really like the way it's baking. So I'm gonna let this come off and put this back on for 10 minutes. Ow, I hurt myself.